During the break, there was this question. I think it's a quite valid, important question, so I'll begin with that. The question is, remember when Manjushri asked Vimalakirti, how should a bodhisattva look at sentient being? Vimalakirti said, the bodhisattva must look at another being as a reflection of the water in the moon. And I think the question is, why so? Why reflection? Because, okay, the intent of the question, I'm just going to explore this a little bit. I think as soon as we use the term analogy, reflection, there is probably this assumption that we are saying it does not exist. You understand, oftentimes when we talk about reflection, we think in terms of it does not exist, it's just a reflection. But the fact of the matter is, while reflection has the element of not truly existing, but one can never deny the beautiful reflection of the moon in the water. It's there, as intact, as however it is in the moon, as long as there is no obscuration such as clouds or such as muddy water or whatever, the reflection of the moon is clear and pristine and very much there. So this is yet another example of clarity and emptiness being together. It is, remember, always the one point that we are coming back again and again, there and not there together. Happening and not happening, happening together. Non-existence and existence being together. And this is very important in the Mahayana Buddhism. When we talk about compassion, if you believe that there is a truly existing sentient being out there, then you are in a big problem. Then you will have to assert that problem exists truly. Person who has the problem truly exists. Diagnosis truly exists. Solution truly exists. So on and so forth. I remember once we used the word like, many times we use this analogy, like many times if I'm a mind doctor, then I would look at some of you and think, you need help. And I would say, because you are not normal. And my idea of normal is something that I have read somewhere. I've even done PhD on that one. You understand? So that solidity of what is normal, it has become your goal. And then you look at this person and you think you don't have that normalcy that I design. Therefore, you need help. And here I will give you all this help. Of course, little do we know that actually, in reality, maybe the person whom you are trying to help is more normal than yourself. This happens all the time. But this is not only it. Many times, when we try to help somebody, if you think that a problem exists, object of problem exists, all of that, you end up becoming victim of your own compassion. You become victim of your sorrow, concern. You end up becoming victim of your own. I think there's even a word. The Californians are so good with designing words. I forgot, it slipped out of my mind. Can somebody help? There's a big word. It's just such a... There's a lot of books written about it. Oh, codependency. Isn't it? Isn't it? Right? Codependency. Codependency. Many times people who is trying to help another, like husband who is alcoholic, you as a wife trying to help, then you end up becoming the victim of your own, all this entanglement of how to help, not being able to help, what is help, all that. This is where Mahayana's wisdom, Vimalakirti's suggestion that when you look at a sentient being, you look at a sentient being as a reflection of the moon in the water. So crucial. Okay, now remember the girls come back. And remember there was nobody there, and now everybody's coming back. And the girls were very impressed with what was going on. And they got too excited, and they, sprinkle a lot of flowers. And the flowers never really sort of stained bodhisattvas. And arhats, on the other hand, had all these flowers whom they are trying to, monks, they are trying to sort of get rid of. By the way, these are the source of the Zen stories that we read sometimes. What was it? There's these two Zen monks, and they had to cross a river, and then there's this girl who asking for help, and then one of younger monk carried him, right? Or some older monk. And then the older monk said, later, younger monk said, why did you do that? You are a monk. Then the older monk said, I've left her long before. Yeah, all this, understanding, interpretation, these wisdoms, similar here, the flower in this case. So anyway, when the monks are trying to sort of shrug the flowers off, then in fact, the Vimalakirti Sutra is becoming very bold now. Because, our big guy, Shariputra, you are talking about, really high positioned monk, arhat. In fact, Sharabnamji Chok, Zumba Sharipu, it's the supreme, I told you, remember? General Secretary, sort of, the Chief of Staff. Now, this time, the challenger is not even Vimalakirti. Challenger is the girl, the goddess. She is bringing the question, bringing up the challenge. Why do you do that? Why are you trying to shrug off? And all that conversations between the Shariputra and the goddess. For instance, I'm extracting Shariputra asking to the goddess, but isn't liberation from desire, anger, and ignorance? Isn't that liberation? Samo, the goddess Devi, says, teachings such as liberation is liberating from desire, anger, and ignorance is only given to those who have pride. 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 Yeah, pride. Those who, don't worry, it will come later more. Because someone who doesn't have pride will know that there is no such thing as desire, anger, and ignorance. So there is nothing to shrug off. Again, we are talking about really absolute level of the teachings of the Mahayana here. Okay, I have to sort of, as the letters from the Vimalakirti this morning, which I have received, rightfully said, I will have to continuously do bad job, skipping. This is it, this is really good. He says, okay, so Shariputra, what went wrong with you? You know, to the girl, to the Devi, to the goddess, what went wrong with you? And she says, why? It's because you're a woman. What did you do in the past life so that you have become a woman? This is Shariputra asks. And you know, what did Devi, the goddess, said? What are you talking about? I have been living in this house for 12 years. I've never seen a woman. This is this is Devi's answer. Because, okay, so then she goes on and talk about how so-called men, woman, gender is just a magic. It's as non-existence as a magic that is created by a magician. Reflection of the moon in the water. Clear and intact it may be, but it has no truly existing, inherently existing nature. Goes on and on about how it is so wrong to think in terms of gender that just, like she cannot understand why Shariputra is so stuck with gender issues here. And you know what happened? She, not Vimalakirti, she performed magic and turned Shariputra into woman. And himself and herself as Shariputra, man. And then she, who is now in the form of he, she who is in the form of Shariputra asks, is something wrong? Shariputra said something like, well, it's just that there's some appearance change. That other than that, nothing seems to have not. There is not so much of a big difference. Yeah, coordinating the And then there's lengthy discussions about how the appearance of gender, appearance of women and men are only an appearance, even in our mundane world, we have that expression, right? Appearance is deceiving. looks deceptive. You're like, what makes you think? It's almost like now I'm asking you, what makes you think I'm man? And what makes you think that just because you have been looking at me as past 20 years as man, is that the only reason you have? That's pathetic. It's a bit like that. But what makes you think that I'm a man? What makes you think, those who are women, what makes you think that you are a woman? Like, and then, anyway, after lengthy discussions, again there was sex change back to the normal, sort of so-called normal, original, so-called. And then again Devi asked, where is that form to Shariputra, the female form? And the Shariputra said, of course, it is no more. But then the discussion is, what is no more? When there was no truly existing gender, there is not even a first time changing the gender, and there is no second time changing the gender. Anyway, the whole chapter is on what is called Devi's chapter of goddess. And then again I'm going to extract chapter 7. And this is really this chapter is very much quoted in the tantric texts a lot. In this chapter, is really about caste. Caste. What is definition of caste? As in English, when I say word caste, what does it reflect in caste? Race, caste. Social status. Okay, so it might not work. Maybe the word caste is not the right word. Rik. Caste. Lineage is good. Few more. Clan. Also, it has a little bit of a clan thing. It's like bottle opener wala, kind of that kind of thing. What will you do? SP, please help. You are one of those walas, so how do this caste? It's so misinterpreted, I feel. Wait, mic is coming. Now this is important, so I'd like to discuss this a little bit. Caste, element, caste, race, family. Often the Buddhist translators are now using the word family. Okay.
So if we are talking about the caste system in India, then we have to make a distinction between varna and jati. Varna are the four, the four
right.
main groupings.
That's color, right?
Varna is a sort of shade or color. Color, yeah. But then the jatis, which are the subcastes, are like thousands. But for our discussion here, caste would have the ingredient one of something that passes on through birth. So if I'm from a certain caste, it is because I was born in that caste.
Yes.
And there is nothing I can do to change from that caste to any
Yes.
other. Now, of course, there are some modern Hindu friends who say that no, this is the sort of ossification in modern times. In the old times, you could change occupation, you could go from one caste to another.
Right.
From my reading, I don't accept that.
Okay.
So one is about birth. The second is about occupation.
Occupation.
So
Yeah, so all this,
Yeah.
are all, I think
Yeah.
it's giving you the right sort of all together.
And however much caste may have loosened its grip, so to say, the real test would be whether there is intercaste marriage and whether there is intercaste eating.
Okay.
So would a person from caste A...
Tell me something a little bit outside of social thing. Tell me something about, can somebody think about a scientific word? Component?
Scientific word for what?
Something similar to caste. You know, like ingredient, no, not ingredient. DNA, maybe. Tenacity, ethnicity. Okay, actually, can you tell me more about something, not necessarily being, but like gene?
That's right, genus.
Genus, okay. Okay. I think this also helps. But now tell me something more pharmaceutical kind of term. No, I mean it, really. Element, like now you have to have, like even you drink a juice, then you have all this, what do you call it, ingredient, but maybe a little bit more than ingredient. Formulation. What makes, not the formulation, what the part of the formulation? Compound.
Composition is another word.
Compound is good.
Constituents.
Constituents, yes.
That's a contribution.
That's good. Constituents. Components. Okay. So, this next chapter is about that. Basically about component, constituency, element, caste, family. That's how all our prejudice also starts. Oh, I know he will do this with, he or she will do this way because they belong to that kind of family. Remember? I know it will taste like a chili because there is something in it, some component that burns you. You understand? Component, constituency. I have a diabetic problem because my great-great-grandfather, my grandfather never had, my father never, but my great-great-grandfather had. Something that may be passed on to your genes or whatever, DNA, and then it stays there. Yeah, it is related to that. So, and by the way, the role has changed a little bit. This time, it is Vimalakirti asking the question, and Manjushri is the one who is giving answer. And I personally think this is quite a big honor. This is one of the most important questions. So Vimalakirti is doing the asking, saying, 7th. Really? Oh well. What to do? The Vimalakirti asked Manjushri, what makes Buddha? What is the component, chemistry? What is the ingredient? See, what is it that makes Buddha? Family, caste, component, constituency. What is it that will become the Buddha? That has the potential to be Buddha, that can be referred to as the Buddha. This is a classic, treasured, quoted again and again and again by especially the tantric people. And this is why, as you remember, I was telling you, one of the reasons why I wanted to discuss Vimalakirti Sutra is to sort of use a big loudspeaker and aim towards even people like Xuanzang's ear. Think, what makes the component, family, what makes the Buddha? Rikjipu, jikso ni tijinche panamje rikso. Manjushri even calls, Manjushri refers to Vimalakirti not as Chimda, the patron, the sponsor. Manjushri used the word, oh, noble son, son of the noble family, son of the noble family, oh, son of the noble family. Emotion is the component, the constituency. Emotions are the ingredient that makes the Buddha. Ignorance, craving, desire, anger. These are Buddha family. They are what makes the Buddha. And remember the example that I have mentioned several times, the lotus will never come from dry place, but from the mud is found in this chapter. I don't know how you are going to appreciate this one. If you understand a little bit of a philosophy, then you will appreciate this next statement so much. And probably I would say this is a bit of a sarcasm, this is my own interpretation, by the way. This is a bit of a sarcasm towards Tirthikas. Tirthikas are not necessarily Hindus. Anyway, the non-Buddhist, schools or religion. A little bit of sarcasm. And also, it is a strong message to us. We have a tendency to venerate uncompounded state. We have a tendency, people who loves moksha, people who love cessation of, we have a tendency to love and venerate and treasure the uncompounded state. Manjushri's statement here, if you plant the seed in the sky, it will never grow as a flower or rice or whatever. Likewise, in the state of uncompounded, no Buddha will grow. Buddha, enlightenment, will only grow where there is a compounded phenomena. So compounded phenomena is so much venerated and appreciated. Of course, we know it is impermanent and all of that. but venerate it. Important point for those who are more philosophically informed. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult, that part. Okay. Skip, skip, skip. Next chapter in the Tibetan version is the 8th chapter, is concerning non-duality. And this is something that we have discussed. I'm sure many of you have received the teachings on non-duality, but I will extract a little bit. It's really regarding more on that. But interesting thing is this time, and this is so interesting, non-duality obviously is the most important issue. So now it is Vimalamitra asking all the bodhisattvas. All the bodhisattvas, what is non-duality? And every one of them give us impressive, amazing answer. So see, they are not dumb. They all have amazing answers. So, and one of the bodhisattvas said, when I think I and mine, that is duality. When that collapses, that's non-duality. And another bodhisattva said, when there is defilement and purification, that is a duality. When you go beyond that, that is non-duality. Oh, so many. Another bodhisattva, Chanjusamba Senge. I think Singh, Sijri Roya. Singh, Simha. Is Singh, Simha? Like Veer Singh. No, Simha, is it similar? Singh comes from that. My strange mind ends up thinking this bodhisattva must do Bhangra. This bodhisattva. He says, as long as there is a wrong deed and a virtuous deed and non-virtuous deed, it is duality. When you go beyond that, is non-duality. Another bodhisattva said, as long as you think this is mundane world, and another there is sublime world, then that is a duality. To go beyond that is a non-duality. And then it becomes more elaborated. It comes in the, there's even explanations on the 6 paramitas. Like, as long as the generosity is understood as the paramita, as the non-duality, then that is the generosity that leads you to the liberation. And this kind of bodhisattva will also realize that the liberation itself is generosity. This particular quote of the sixth paramita, just those who are curious, is quoted by many great practitioners of Mahamudra and Mahasandhi a lot. It works their teaching methods a lot. For instance, I don't know whether I should be sort of revealing these things, but probably, I will try to just generalize a bit. Like in the Mahamudra, one of the most fundamental method is uncontriving, being ordinary, not craving for speciality, by the way, completely being ordinary. And that is a generosity, because, Mahamudra master such as Milarepa, how can he perfect generosity? He has nothing. He was naked, in the cave, eating some nettle soup. So how did he finish his generosity? Oh, he did, because he was absolutely dwelling on the uncontriving state all the time. When you are not contriving, you don't grasp, you don't fixate. And if you are not grasping and clutching and clinging, isn't that generosity? So on and so forth. So all 6 paramitas can be practiced in the single moment of Mahasandhi practice, Mahamudra practice, so on and so forth. So this is quoted by Mahasandhi and Mahamudra. I'm sorry for those who are very new. I'm driving you crazy with all this jargon, terminologies, etc. There's another bodhisattva. He says, if you like to be liberated, and if you don't like samsara, that is duality. You have to go beyond liking the liberation and disliking the samsara. That is the only way to actualize the non-duality. Okay, all that happened now. Now, back to Shariputra. So Shariputra is like, I guess there's no watch. It's like looking up the sky. It's midday, Monks, they have to eat midday. If they miss that, then that's it. They can't eat. So it's like he's like fidgeting a little bit, like this is sort of midday, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of food coming in and out. Like you can. And there's quite a lot of people here. Like, Shariputra is like thinking in terms of like, is there a takeaway or? So, Vimalakirti tells Shariputra, wait, knowing again Shariputra is famished, hungry, probably. Actually, Vimalakirti said, Shariputra got another scolding from Vimalakirti saying that, you are distracted. Don't listen to the teaching with a distracted mind. You wait. You will eat something that you have never eaten before. Okay. Now this, you have to really again switch to remember big vision, able to think unthinkable things, go beyond your box. Okay, even as you listen to this. Because if you don't, you will think this is just a fairy tale. But if you really know how to listen, this is another important part. It is coming towards the end, by the way. Because, there's so many Buddha fields. And somehow, Vimalakirti chose to interact with one particular Buddha field. I don't know how to translate that one, but it's like the Buddha field with a just fragrant Buddha field. Let's call it fragrant. Supposedly, like so, the speciality of that Buddha field is so, the fragrance is just so beautiful and just incredible. And that Buddha field, and especially they have food. Food is supposedly so fragrant, like so nice smell. And because it's a lunchtime, we know that Buddha field is also about to serve the food. And Vimalakirti knows that food is very special, smell. So, Vimalakirti asks Bodhisattvas, there's that Buddha field, who is going to bring some food from there? Take away, who's daring to take this? Manjushri, knowing all this trick again, Manjushri blessed all the Bodhisattvas so that none of them want to go. And Vimalakirti asked, Manjushri, aren't you embarrassed? Look at your retinue. None of your, attendants, your entourage is thinking of fetching food. And then Manjushri sort of said, well, don't you remember the Buddha, the Lord said, one should never despise to the ones who are not informed. What Manjushri wanted was Vimalakirti to demonstrate something so that the Bodhisattvas and the Arhats, they get a certain lesson. Okay, of course, Vimalakirti is ever ready to demonstrate. So Vimalakirti, without standing up from his bed, he's still a bedridden sick, you understand? And by the way, meanwhile, the big Lord is in the, mango grove, eating mango. Remember? The mango grove is still there. And I have a feeling I have a feeling that as we read the sutra, that somehow somehow Ananda didn't go. Remember everybody went to witness the conversation between Vimalakirti and Manjushri, but Ananda had to remain with the Buddha. He's the attendant. Anyway, Vimalakirti manifested a beautiful figure with a golden colored figure, Bodhisattva. And Vimalakirti asked his own manifestation to go to this Buddha field, the fragrant Buddha field, and give him the instructions. You go there, circumambulate the Buddha, prostrate to the Buddha, pay homage to the Buddha, and beg for leftover food and bring it back. And this is what happened. And then this manifested Bodhisattva, manifestation of the Vimalakirti, goes to fragrant Buddha field. It's almost like another planet, okay, another universe. And there's this, Bodhisattva from this realm. And everybody is like so fascinated it's almost like an alien, coming from another realm. And the Bodhisattva did the prostration, did all of that, asked for food, all of this. Oh, there's a particular message that the Bodhisattva has to deliver to this Pencho Tsekbi Jebo. What? I'm sure there's a long name. Pencho Tsekpa. How do you say this in Sanskrit? This Buddha's name, the layer of the. Gandhotama Kutta. 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 Gandhotama Kutta. No. Gandhot. No, the Buddha's name is that? Yeah, okay. And anyway, the messenger is to tell this Buddha, Gandhotama Buddha, that he comes from the earth and begging for the leftover food, because Vimalakirti's message is that the Buddha Gandhotama Kutta, he will benefit this earth, this realm. And then the second part of the message is, how do I translate this? It's such an important sentence. It's almost like the messenger is saying, I come from land, this earth, okay, our earth. I come from the earth that is blessed by the Shakyamuni Muni. I come from the earth. That Membala Meba is, I come from an earth where people love mediocre. Mediocre, I think, mediocre, lower class, low class, inferior, sort of kitschy stuff. Kitschy, right? Kitschy. Sort of, not stylish, not kitschy, right? Kitschy. kitschy. Yeah. Like a lower class. I come from earth that has no good taste, basically. So he said that to the Buddha. Gandho tamakuta, right? Hmm. And so as he said that, then the Gandhotama Buddha's disciples, they were so fascinated. I mean, the golden colored boy, and then also another sort of alien, and they were so fascinated, and they were asking all these questions. And one of the questions to the Buddha is, what does he mean? Because that Buddha realm, that Buddha field has no other, doctrine or anything like that. So they have no other reference. So they asked, like, what does he mean? That he comes from people who settles for mediocre, people who love, sort of lower class stuff. And it's just so beautiful. This is just so, if it is read, in a right context, it's a really tear-jerking stuff. It's so beautiful. Because, we have been built up with thinking that, mediocre, low class, no taste, and now it's totally switched. And the Buddha, this Buddha, Gandhotama Buddha, would say, will really praise for the fact that the people love mediocre. The fact that these guys like kitschy stuff, having the low class taste, having no taste, this is what will happen now. Okay, so this Buddha said. And especially, this Buddha praises the Shakyamuni Buddha, saying this is an incredible Buddha who has so much courage, incredible courage and the wisdom and the skill to go to this realm who loves mediocre stuff. Who will go there? I mean, who would go to, if you have been shopping in Champs-Élysées, for instance, who would want to stay like 10 hours in Circuit shopping mall? You understand, it's a bit like that. So Buddha praises the courage, the wisdom, the skillful means of the Shakyamuni Buddha. And this Buddha also says, well, this boy, messenger, is actually the manifestation of the disciple of that Buddha. And look, even the disciple is so magnificent. And coming from this sort of a world that settles for mediocre, all that. So, this Buddha arranged the food, the leftover, beautifully arranged, placed all the food properly, and give it to the man, the boy, the bodhisattva. Okay, take this back. And the Buddha warned, but be careful. When this food arrives, your land, your planet, it might it might drive them mad. It might drive them crazy. So the Buddha suggested tone down the smell of the food, the fragrance. Like maybe sort of really sort of dilute it. Because the earth dwellers will not handle it. Oh, I'm missing out here. But when the boy is about to go back to the earth, bodhisattvas there all wanted to come with him to the earth. Because they were fascinated. They need to see this place, this earth who loves mediocre stuff. I mean, it's amazing, it's fascinating to have a world who has a bad taste. That's just incredible. I mean, who would have thought about that? You know, like, actually having a place who loves mediocre, bad taste, kitschy stuff? Oh, we have to go and see this. It kind of makes sense, don't you think? We love going to Balimaran. You know, it's a bit like, it's exciting to go into these kind of sleazy places sometimes. So, and because of that, their Buddha said, you know, you guys, you know, don't drive them mad. You guys, you know, be careful. Tone down your fragrance. Dilute your fragrance. Don't be too, you know, like, you know, I don't know, maybe not, it's not like, you know, tone down with your appearance and attitude and all that. So, then there's a lengthy conversations about how these two Buddha teach. Remember, the Buddha, one Buddha is teaching to those who have a good taste, only good taste. And one Buddha is teaching to those who have a really bad taste. So then there's a lengthy conversations about what is that? So if I extract again a little bit, okay. It's really long. Just summarize a little bit now. So the question is, what do we mean by bad taste? Lower class? Sort of mediocre? What makes this earth mediocre? Therefore, okay, so there's teaching is also mediocre. But you have to know, in this case, mediocre is what is being praised by the other Buddha, remember? So even the mediocre teaching is praised by the other Buddha because the other Buddha is saying that's the reason is coming because it's just so difficult to teach to kitschy people. It's a bit like, how would you convince someone how would you really convince someone to dress elegantly? Someone who is so into dressing with, wearing, I don't know, Versace underwear, Versace pants, Versace scarf, Versace jacket, Versace perfume, Versace hat. How would you tell them? Just a nice white t-shirt, blue jeans, or maybe I don't know, a gray scarf will look elegant. How would you tell them? You cannot, because these guys will have to, they have to put on everything, all the branded stuff. So it's really difficult. Okay, anyway, what do we mean by mediocre? Okay, so this is the description. This is what you need to hear. Where a teaching that says, if you do bad things, you will go to hell. If you do good things, you go to heaven. If you have desire, you should tame your desire. These are mediocre teachings taught to the people who only chew mediocre stuff. Similarly, Sharvakayana, Mahayana, Yanas, all these stages. First do that, second do that. Progressive teaching, like stage by stage teachings, step by step teachings. These are mediocre teachings. And you have to give them that. Because that's the only way they can understand. Like Visachi. Because they just love it. They can't do without it. Anyway, skip most of it, and that's the 9th chapter. By then, okay, we now go back to Mango Grove. Buddha, who is probably attended only by Ananda, because the others all left for the big show. And suddenly has a big golden light beaming from everywhere. And Ananda was just fascinated. Wow, golden lights. When asked Shakyamuni Buddha what this is, Shakyamuni Buddha said, this is the sign that Vimalakirti, Manjushri, after all that conversation, they are returning. And Vimalakirti is also coming. So they are now coming. Vimalakirti arrives. Vimalakirti just falls like a tree being chopped from the root. Gel, it's like this, plunges on the ground, prostrating to the feet of the Gautama Buddha. Circumambulate. All the bodhisattvas and arhats, they did the same. Shariputra expressed about how he was fascinated by all this event. And Ananda asked, there is an unfamiliar smell here today. We never had such food. What's this? Sniffing everywhere. And Buddha said, this is smell exuding from the bodhisattva of those that the other Buddha filled. But Ananda said, even our own people who have just been there, even their body seems to have smell. Body seems to have that kind of odor. What is this? Because they ate the leftover food of the Buddha. Okay, a lengthy, okay, food. The food is the subject here, right? The leftover. Sustenance. Sustenance. One that holds you, one that keeps you, one that, the thread. So then we have a long, lengthy conversations about food. Obviously, we are talking about samadhi, meditation, because that is, of all the food, the samadhi is the supreme food. This is stated in the sutras, tantras, everywhere. Literally, actually, not even metaphorically. Even, this is taught even in the shamatha. Remember, those who are doing shamatha, or even the vipassana, if you do a long time, your hunger just, it disappears. I have, met people who have done a lot of shamatha, whose appetite, it's not like losing the appetite, but it's like they just don't feel like they need to eat, yet they are so energetic. That's not even in the category of miracle. That's just reality, even within our capacity of mind. Because calm mind, calm abiding mind, non-distracted mind, non-stressed mind, non-judgmental mind, non-contrived mind, without a doubt, without any effort, is free from hunger, thirst, hunger, need. This is a very big subject actually, need. Of course, want also. You become free from wanting and needing. And when you are free from wanting and needing, sustenance, definition of the sustenance changes. And I think this, this is actually, I've talked with people who are trying to cure bulimia, people who have bulimia, people who cannot sort of stop eating, people who loves food, big part of diet, big part of needing to eat, big part of, it's like, yes, because we, the deluded beings, not understanding the non-duality, yet we long for union. That's why we long for relationship, friendship. That's why we long for even a hug, contact, intercourse, kissing, pinching. Okay, I'm going to stop here. And food is, whether you believe it or not, whether you accept it or not, it is our, intercourse with chapati. And on this very strange note, let's have a break, which, by the way, is also a reverse intercourse, which we will do it now.
Morning, you're saying we need a war to those people who propagate mindfulness, in everywhere. But for normal person in modern society, it is more beneficial to train them mindfulness, or rather than not bother them with mindfulness, leave them more chance to get closer to the wisdom. So this is my question.
We are, I've just told you, this is here, we are from the planet that loves mediocre. So we have to do mindfulness practice. What are you talking about? Yes, that is our aim. Of course. Have to do it. You have no choice. Because you are mediocre lover. That's what I mean. Mediocre, yeah, yeah. You don't have high taste. You don't have a big, good taste. So you have to somehow begin with a bad taste.
Rinpoche, thank you so much for teaching this fantastic teaching. I'm totally mesmerized by the amazing beings that you're talking about. Not to mention that, coming out of your mouth and just listening to it directly is a great blessing in itself. However,
okay.
You still haven't answered my question. I'm still waiting. Thank you.
Because war is waged when there is something to gain. You understand? And in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, let's talk to the Chinese who wrote Art of War. And actually I have read this Sun Tzu's Art of War and I've really liked it. And one of the most important message in there is that you should not wage war. The moment you wage war, you consider you are already defeated. What a profound things to say. And here is, the message is much more. Like, there's nothing to gain, nothing to lose. And that's what I mean right at the beginning. This kind of teaching is not just philosophical, intellectual, sort of satisfying intellectually or on an abstract level, but it is something that can really. And why do we wage war? Because we like to conquer. Victory. The moment you have these notions, moment you have this level of understanding, then the victory, definition of victory is changed. Definition of conquering is changed. Definition of territorial gain is changed. Definition, and therefore, meaning of strategy is changed. Meaning of embargo is changed. Meaning of all kinds of things. And with this wisdom, when you meditate, you will meditate like a gorilla. Like a, what do you call them? Like those, No, kamikazes. Yes, kamikazes. You will, art of deception, basically. You will be skilled. I better not talk too much, otherwise I will end up becoming in a wanted list. But really, I'm talking, if you can understand, we are talking about changing the definition of, it is because of these teachings in the other more general teachings, we hear things like statements like, okay, do you want to become rich? In Buddha Dharma, it's not against, the Buddha Dharma is not against being rich. There's even instructions on how to become a rich, all kinds of ways. One of the most important is to learn to develop contentment. The moment you have contentment, the moment you have the attitude of I have enough, you have become rich. As long as you think I don't have enough, no matter what you have, you are poor. You know, we hear these things. It's a bit like that. Okay, let me just slowly conclude this. Now the group has returned to the mango grove, and there's a lengthy conversations involving the Buddha himself also. I mean directly. Like questions like Buddha asking Vimalakirti, how do you look at a Buddha? Beyond form, beyond feeling, beyond karmic formation, beyond symbol. Beyond time. And there's a length, and then, this concept of the Buddha. I mean, we have a concept of Buddha. Historically bound. Categorized by gender, time, space. But Vimalakirti will give us the way to see the Buddha in the absolute level. Okay, this is just, I'm jumping everywhere now because there's just too much information. I forgot to tell you, the smell, the aroma, fragrance, the significance of that has something to do with the discipline. Discipline, shila, morality, ethic. Okay, Tathagata is not a darkness, Tathagata is not an illumination, Tathagata is not a name, Tathagata is not a mark, not a reference, Tathagata is not powerful, Tathagata is not weak. This is, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole that descriptions about the Buddha, but absolute Buddha, beyond, no form, no eyes, no ears, no gender. Remember? So whole that, maybe about 2 pages of that. Then suddenly again, there's always a constant pulling the rug out of your feet. Then again, suddenly, Buddha asked Vimalakirti to show the Buddha and the Buddha field of the Akshobhya to the audience. And there's all this miraculously, Vimalakirti shows the just infinite planet of the Buddha Akshobhya. And just, it's a bit like, and even the setting, again, that setting is just, it's almost like this. Okay, so the audience are sitting here, they have just been told that Buddha is beyond form, all of that. And now, Shakyamuni Buddha asked Vimalakirti, can you show the picture or the the manifestation of the Akshobhya Buddha to this audience? And it's almost like Vimalakirti just opens a curtain. And then there, all the audience sees this Akshobhya realm, swimming pools, the swans, the parrots, the trees, infinite, endless. And then, so the whole, that description's about a beautiful place. But then, always characterized by something non-dual. Like in that field, you will never find east. So now then we are again shaken a little bit. Okay, no east, therefore no south, there is no middle, there is no boundary, there is no parameter, there is no top, there is no bottom. Back to non-duality. Explaining the unexplainable. Coming to the end. Lord Indra, the king of the gods, stands up. Oh, wait, before that. And this is the encouraging thing. This is so beautiful. This is again another one. If within the right context and with the right setting, if this is read, it's like a tear-jerking stuff. Because then you think like, okay, people like us, okay, so they had the swell time, Buddha's time, like Vimalakirti was there, Shariputra was there. But this is a history now. We, people like you and me, stuck here, mediocre, bad taste, What do? We are done for. We are like forever doomed. So how about us? Then there's like 2 pages of, in the future, if this is discussed, the contents of the Vimalakirti and Manjushri and the other bodhisattvas discussions of what has happened, if this is discussed in the degenerated time, way long after Buddha passed, if this is discussed, if this is written on the paper, if this is treasured, if this is put in your house, if you are wearing it, if part of it is, written in your notebook, if you worshipped it, if you, venerate it, put on your head, if you really love this kind of discussions, imagine you bring Buddhas of the 10 directions, Bodhisattvas of the 3 times, for lunch, for dinner, give them each 100 kilos of gold, diamond, silver, iPhone 6, whatever, doesn't matter. Make them lots and lots of offerings, not just a day or 2, but months, years, so many. Would you say there's so much merit? Of course. So much merit offering these things to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But that merit is nothing compared to a moment, 5 minutes of conversations about what has happened in the degenerated time. That's quite encouraging, isn't it? This is what the Buddha said. And at that moment, I will skip, Lord Indra, the god of the, the king of the gods, stands up and he volunteered that he will be the protector of this dharma. That no matter where this dharma dwells, heard, taught, discussed, printed, written, to this people, to this place, he will venerate, he will pay homage, he will protect, no matter where this is, in the cities, in the villages, in the streets, in the gardens, in the swimming pools, in the hermits, in the mountain tops, wherever this teaching dwells, Lord Indra will protect. And the Lord Indra will venerate. And then Buddha rejoiced Indra's commitment, because he said, to discuss these matters is the supreme offering of dharma, offering of truth. Because, okay, this is the ending word. Jigden thamjeda mitem ba tokbar kama, ngambar kama, khondu chibar kama, chawa, shiba, mimikba, chanjusam mide, nuji no tokba, zungdam dodi jebe, chajida ba, chimidu ba, kholutam ba. Because to protect wisdom, to protect strategy, wisdom, books, documents, that conflicts with the samsara is so precious. And this book, this contents of these teachings, contents of these discussions, if you want something that will create friction to the duality, you cannot find better than this. Therefore, you, king of the gods, you do the right thing. Protect it, treasure it, because this will be the weapon of the mass destructions to the dualistic world. As usual, and also Buddha asked Ananda to treasure these teachings. Anyway, it is concluded with a big round of applause from bodhisattvas, arhats, sharvakas, gods, demigods, asuras, rakshasas, yakshasas, everyone. Rejoice. And that is the end of extraction of the Vimalakirti Sutra. Okay. Applause.